This is the last Sneasel deck I will post, I promise. But Sneasel did develop a lot as the metagame evolved. If you've watched my other two Sneasel videos, you know that those decks went from being all about big basics and fast, heavy attacks to being more of a plain anti-meta deck that just featured Sneasel because it was such a great attacker. The Rocket Zapdos and Sneasel Haymaker deck was really amazing for a while, but then people started to include cards like Broken Ground Gem that were really bad for basic Pokemon. And that's when you see the rise of decks that are more evolution based that could outlast these Sneasel decks. Decks like Kingdra, Steelix, and Light Dragonite could really wall Sneasel, and so to compete, Sneasel decks moving forward from there mostly included Aerodactyl, so that those evolution decks lost their advantage. As the nature of the metagame shifted again, other decks began to include cards like Goop Gas Attack. That way you could disable Aerodactyl and get down your own Noctowls or Mucks. Lots of utility Pokemon with very useful Pokemon powers. So then Sneasel had to worry about its own support card in Aerodactyl being shut down, as well as some really tough mirror matches where Sneaseldactyl versus Sneaseldactyl could really go either way and it depended on luck. So Sneasel needed to evolve once more and try to figure out what kind of pairing would work best in this situation at this point of time in the metagame. That's where the perfect partner was found in Pichu, which had become a staple card by itself because it could wreak such havoc on cards like Brock's Ninetales, Noctowl Muck, Aerodactyl, and Parasect, which all had 60 or 70 HP, meaning that Pichu could knock them out after 3 rounds of Zap. And that may seem unlikely, but you have to remember that Pichu is a baby Pokemon, so you're having to flip a coin just to attack it. If you have a focus band on it, that's going to make it last even longer. So getting 3 rounds of Zap off is actually very likely. And it's hitting multiple Pokemon at once. It's hitting every single Pokemon in play that has a power. So Pichu became a perfect counter to all of these decks that relied on these support Pokemon powers. But it also became a threat to even high HP Pokemon that relied on powers. At the end of this metagame where Snichu became a huge staple, you also had a resurgence of starter decks. So you had your Rain Dance, your Charizard, 3 Feraligatr variants. Even Meganium was starting to see a lot of play at the end of this metagame. And although Pichu wasn't really going to be knocking any of those out on its own, it would be stacking enough damage on them to where Sneasel could easily knock them out. This deck was open to all kinds of variation, all kinds of different utility cards you could put in. So I'll be giving just the bare bones basic build of Snichu, and we'll talk about later additions at the end of the video. Of course, you will be needing Cleffa in this deck so that you're able to get those darkness energies into your hand. With this deck, though, you don't necessarily need to start with a Cleffa, although that is ideal. You can start off with a Pichu or a Magby and still be fine in most cases, because on turn 2, if your opponent is playing a deck that relies on powers, they're probably going to already have something out with powers. So also a full playset of Sneasel, since it's going to be your primary attacker in most cases, if not your cleanup revenge killer very late in the game after Pichu has stacked some damage. Now, a lot of builds of this deck want to run 3 Pichu. However, I think that's just a little too much. It makes it to where you're going to be starting most games with Pichu, but if you end up against a deck like Kingdra, that's not ideal because Pichu's not going to be dealing any damage to that deck. And against decks where Pichu is going to be your lead attacker, then 2 is enough. If you get 1 Pichu with a focus band on it, that's going to be enough to cripple your opponent, if not knock out all of their Pokemon that have powers. With 1 copy of Magby in here as just a little bit of backup. Some people kind of scoff at Sputter because it's only shutting down powers until the end of the turn, so it's really only useful against powers that are currently affecting you on your turn. But you also have to remember that it's dealing 10 damage, so any active your opponent has that just survived off of a focus band, Sputter's going to be able to take care of that for you. Because this is anti-meta, it's also anti-baby, which is why 1 copy of Tyrogue is in here, just to threaten those babies. Make your opponent second guess leaving Cleffa out for another turn to try to get another Eek. Team Rocket's Meowth is in here just because I love the card, and I think it's a great surprise Pokemon you can pull out in this deck. Its attack's pretty similar to Sneasel, and you don't need a Darkness Energy to pull it off, so it is a miraculous comeback card. if you can't get the Sneasel powered up, if you're having trouble with that, you can use Team Rocket's Meowth to just try to pull a knockout out of your ass, basically. Apom is another great utility card to keep you from decking out. It combos very well with Nightly Garbage Run, making it so that you only need to run one copy of Garbage Run in your deck. Focus Band is vital for this deck in the same way it is for all Sneasel builds. Sneasel only has 60 HP, and when you're using Pichu, that's going to be vital in keeping it alive long enough to get multiple zaps off and really pose a threat to your opponent's powered Pokemon. Energy Removal and Last are both cards that you want to use as many of as possible as early in the game as you can. Ideally, you want to get all of those energy removals in the discard on turn 4. Same thing for Last. Play as many trainers from your hand as you need to fully take advantage of your own lasses. This is a deck where you want all of your Pokemon on the bench. You want all of your tool cards played as fast as possible. Good Manners is going to help you do that. You're going to play everything that you have in your hand that can go onto your bench, and then play Good Manners to get a basic Pokemon that you really need, that you really want on your bench, or maybe one that you're missing that you think you're going to need later on. And then you can fully utilize Double Gust in this deck. This deck has 13 Pokemon that can retreat for free. So Double Gust is basically going to be fully to your advantage. Doesn't matter what becomes your active, you're going to be able to retreat it immediately. As long as it's not that Team Rocket's Meowth, but that's more of a late game card anyway, so you're not really going to be playing it down or searching for it right away. Going for the standard 2 Oak, 2 Elm here. Professor Oak is going to be more for early game when you're trying to get all of the cards you need immediately. Because you have Cleffa to Eek, you don't have to worry all that much about refreshing your hand with Elm. That would be more of a mid to late game card. But both Professor cards are very helpful, just depending on what your hand currently looks like and what you're needing to get out of your deck. Computer Search is going to be another vital card, especially after an Eek or after playing one of the Professors. It's going to make it very easy to just discard those 2 cards, find whatever it is you need in that moment. Sometimes it's going to be a Darkness Energy or a Focus Band. Sometimes it might just be another basic Pokemon you need to lay on your bench for a little extra damage. With Item Finder serving a similar role, most of the time when I used Item Finder, it was to get another Focus Band out of discard. Sometimes I would want to go for an Oak, just if I needed certain cards out of my deck very quickly. Because you're very reliant on Darkness Energy to attack with Sneasel and deal that massive damage, Energy Charge is really important for getting those back into your deck so that you can then use a Computer Search or a Professor or Cleffa to get them back into your hand and then back onto Sneasel. This doesn't have to be done immediately because you have so many other Pokemon in this deck that can attack for 1 colorless that you can rely on those for at least a few turns while you're getting those Darkness Energies back. You can also feel fairly safe with this deck because I'm running 2 copies of Eco Gem, which will help protect those Darkness Energies on Sneasel unless your opponent is packing a lot of other stadiums that they can replace it with, which is where this deck can compensate for itself, where yes, your opponent can replace your stadium and then play all the energy removals they want, and that's when you would next turn use something like Computer Search to get another Eco Gem out, and then start using your energy charges to put those cards back into your deck. I would say your use of Eco Gem is probably the most strategic thing you can do with this deck, where you're going to play all of your energy removals to get rid of your opponent's stuff. Then you're going to lay down Eco Gem, which is going to make them want to replace it with their own gem. Most decks only ran 2 or 3 gems, so if you can force your opponent to replace Eco Gem twice, try to run them out of all of their replacement stadiums, that's when you can dive in late game and play Chaos Gem. I typically hate playing games where Chaos Gem is active, but for Sneasel, it works really well because you are playing most of your key trainers very early game. After turn 5 or 6, if you lay down Chaos Gem, that's going to make it really hard for your opponent to strategically do anything to you with trainers because they are going to be afraid that you're going to be able to take all the benefits of that card, at which point you should have complete control of the game because all you need to do is retreat back and forth between your different free retreating Pokemon and attack. Your recycle energies are always going to come right back to you, so you're always going to be able to attack with your baby Pokemon or that Team Rocket's Meowth, with Energy Charge and Item Finder being the only trainers you would need to play later in the game. While Pichu is included just to combat a wide variety of Pokemon with Pokemon powers, there are a couple of key matchups that are important. This late in the metagame, almost every deck started to run at least one copy of Igglybuff for its usefulness in shutting down a Parasect or an Aerodactyl. And Elekid also made its way back into a lot of decks for its ability to just knock out a focus banded Pokemon that just had the 10 HP left off of a lucky coin flip. But the thing about those two cards is that they rely on Pokemon powers. They're not actually attacking. They're meant to sit on your bench and use those powers. So Sneasel could absolutely destroy them. They only have 30 HP, and because they're on the bench, no one's having to flip a coin to see if the attack actually goes through. Your other key matchup is against the premier baby-killing deck of this format in Crobat, which completely relies on Dark Golbat and Dark Crobat's powers when they come into play. So if Pichu is spreading damage across those Golbats and Crobats, they're not going to want to devolve and re-evolve, which is the entire concept of that deck, is getting your Crobat and dealing the damage with the powers, then devolving back into Zubat and then back up again. However, if you've got 40 damage on you already, it's going to be very risky to devolve even into a Dark Golbat, let alone a Zubat. And this Dark Crobat matchup is very tricky because they are able to stack 30 damage very easily, knock out baby Pokemon without having to flip a coin. You'll find in these situations, you'll have to sacrifice a Pichu in the process of stacking that damage, which is one of the points of carrying 3 in your deck. So for this build, if you want a really strong matchup against Dark Crobat, go ahead and take out that Rocket's Meowth and add another Pichu in. When I talk about Sneasel decks, people in the comments ask why I don't use Pokemon March or Challenge. And that's because if someone knows you're playing a Sneasel or a Wigglytuff deck, they're never going to accept your challenge. It's better off to just let them draw the 2 cards. But in this format, your draw power is pretty much covered by Professor Oak, Elm, and Cleffa. So you want to save that trainer space for some more useful cards like your energy removals and such. If you'd like to be less reliant on baby Pokemon, Murkrow is another great addition because it's still a free retreater and it can also lock Pokemon into the active position, giving you a couple more turns to set up a Sneasel on the bench or even to start stacking damage on your opponent's support Pokemon with Feint Attack so that Sneasel or Pichu can come in and sweep. While this is the last Sneasel video I will be uploading, just know that Sneasel does have a lot of other great partners. There's a really good Knock-Lock variant that uses Sneasel, and you can also incorporate Porygon 2 into Sneasel Haymaker decks, but those are fairly straightforward and pretty obvious what you're going to do, so I don't feel like I need to upload an entire video for each of those. But I would love to hear from you guys that run these decks regularly, either in person or on TCG1, to let me know what your favorite variants are for running Sneasel, as well as what decks you'd like to see me cover in the future. Do you have a favorite deck for base Neo that I haven't touched on yet? Just let me know down in those comments. Check out the Drunk Shuckle Instagram for teases on upcoming videos, as well as just some other Pokemon shit that I come across. And until next video, bye!